Hi, Silent Sophie. Bet you got a great movie for me today, huh? You know what? I'm not gonna let you get to me this time. Your game is tired and I'm not scared of you anymore. So go ahead and do your worst. 1989's Witchtrap. Great. What's it about? Some paranormal investigators go to a haunted inn and Linnea Quigley takes a shower. Ha! That's your worst? Bring it. Ah! Where the hell does she keep finding these fucking things? There's too much painful cinema out there. Alright, let's just get to the sleaze dock and get this one over with so I can find an aspirin or a bottle of Drano or something. We have 8 dead bodies, 21 cups blood, 4 naked breasts, 1 naked butt, 1 naked bajingo, 1 balcony falling death, 1 car smushing, shower head throat stabbing, hatchet to the skull, bullet to the skull, bullet to the gut, multiple bullets to the chest, bullet to the skull. That's not a typo. This is a different situation. This one's not fired from a gun. A ghost throws a fucking bullet through someone's head. 1 exploding van, 1 exploding head, 1 fully melted body. I got a bad feeling about this cliche. Wisecracking jaded cop cliche. Basement full of stabby things cliche. Gratuitous elevator eyes. Gratuitous psychic bed thrashing. 1 bubble bath. Supernatural gadgetry. Tom Peepery. Masturbatory gun cleaning. Flying possessed knife. Jump scare painting. Jump scare statue. Jump scare mouth grab. Latex grabby window hands. Cremated ash chuggin'. Smashed heart box, and Linnea Quigley in the shower. I don't care how many times it's happened on the show, I'm going to highlight it every time. Man, this one is probably the most disappointing movie Silent Sophie has given me. This one really could have been something, but it ended up just so bad. See? It started off so promising.
Or if he's at like Shabbat at a friend's house, and they're like, is it alright if we say the Lord's Prayer? And he's like, Jew it.
Sorry folks, I'm throwing in a bunch of shit early on because my sanity is going to need it if I'm going to relive this movie. Anyway, we start at an old ivy-covered house and a long series of establishing shots. But inside, dollar store Liberace is freaking out over the screams and gorilla grunts coming from the walls. He gets so sick of it, he flings himself out the window and over the balcony, splatting to the ground below and gushing a few gallons of Hawaiian punch. We cut to a ringing phone, but the person on the line wants to talk to the naked woman in the tub. See? We're barely 5 minutes in and we've got naked soapy boobies. This movie really knows how to set up the disappointment.
Take a message, I'm in the tub. I couldn't move if my hair were on fire.
What an oddly specific thing to say in a horror movie. This is Dr. Agnes Goldberg, a parapsychologist who loves a good
bubble bath.
And in a movie full of terrible acting, she's the terriblest. Her entire performance is so wooden and stilted, I honestly believe I could put a wig on a bit of lumber and get the same results.
Hello? Mr. Lauder.
Good evening, Dr. Goldberg. I trust you read about the accident last week.
Yes, I'm sorry. I assume the negative publicity will delay the inn's opening?
You assume correctly.
May I also assume that you're calling because you've reconsidered my proposal?
Yes.
There's actually a reason for this poor quality acting, and I'll get into it later in the review. Basically, what's going on with the plot is, Devin Lauder has a property that he is legally unable to sell or tear down due to his dickhead Uncle Avery's will. His biggest problem? The house is haunted by said dickhead uncle. So in an effort to stop losing money on his inheritance, he hires Agnes to do some ghost busting. She rounds up her team because we gotta get plenty of bodies for the meat grinder. They include her husband Felix, a mental medium who can be possessed by spirits and allow them to speak through him. Ginger, the videotech played by Linnea frickin' Quigley. And Whitney, a gifted psychic who has a strong connection to spooky shit. But since the haunted house is also an active crime scene thanks to Captain Splatterhead at the beginning, the cops are also involved. So here we meet detectives Levi and Tony, the buddiest cops who ever cop-buddied.
Man, look at this place. I wonder how much a place like this costs.
Your very soul.
Man, I told you to knock that shit off.
They also provide the reasoning for any need to explain what the paranormal team is up to. See, it would be silly for the psychic to explain what she's doing to people that she's worked with before. So, throw in a couple of hard-boiled cops who don't believe in no ghosts, and now we can explain shit for the audience's sake, and it doesn't sound too much like clunky exposition. Isn't making movies fun? So during the briefing, Devin explains that he's been having difficulty renting out the property due to the paranormal activity that frightens away anyone who rents it. Naturally, the detectives think they're being put on, but Devin is quite serious about having his paranormal property problem put right. Agnes is unhappy about having a couple of outsiders getting in the way of her team, but thanks to the recent death, Devin insists on there being a security detail for safety. Anyone out there believe that these two chowderheads are even capable of creating a safe environment? No one? Of course, nobody should. On with the movie! The team makes it to the house and the creepy curriculum commences.
These are filthy. These are absolutely filthy.
We have a standard issue ominous groundskeeper, who totally won't be involved in the spooky shit later on. Upside down crosses, stories of carved up corpses, daytime seances with ghostly chit-chatting and spooky seizures. Goofy ghost-busting technology. Scary basement pentagrams. Grizzled Sammy Hagar jump scares. Every time the ghost does some shit, Whitney screams and moans and thrashes about on the bed, borderline pornographically. And Levi spends a lot of time eye-humping Ginger. I mean, I get it, but still, take it down a few notches and don't be so blatant about it. Passing glances, yes. Drooling moron staring, no. And it's actually a while after our team has shown up at the house before we find out why Avery's a ghost. Before his death, he was working on a satanic ritual to give himself immortality, but the cops interrupted the ceremony. Whitney believes he's attempting to finish that ritual even in death. As for actual action, the ghost hops into the driver's seat and kills Levi by smashing him up against a locked fence and then running over his head, but we don't get to see any of the actual cranium crushing. The ghost throws a fucking bullet through Murphy's skull, painting the walls cerebellum red, which was actually kinda cool. We get a knife, axe, and gunfight in the basement with the groundskeeper, which was totally a shock because nobody could have seen that coming. They move the fight outside, and the groundskeeper gets dropped in a hail of gunfire no human could have stood up to. Apparently he was a demon or something. Who cares? Ghost magic. Fuck you. And we also get Linnea Quigley in the shower. Unfortunately, she's also murdered when the showerhead stabs her in the throat. That's a new one for me. Oh well, live by the shower, die by the shower, I suppose. About midway through the show, Whitney tells her sob story about how she got her psychic powers as a kid.
When I was 9, my parents took me to the beach, but I got caught in the undertow, and before I knew what was happening, it sucked me under. I was drowning, but I wasn't frightened. And then high above me, I saw a bright white light shining down on me. I looked down, and below me was a vacant, bottomless pit. And I knew I was standing on the threshold between heaven and hell.
And that's how I found out there was no Santa Claus.
There's also an attempt at a half-assed religious debate about God and the devil that gets shoehorned in a couple of times. Whitney is of the mindset that people who don't believe in God aren't equipped to fight evil and that nobody else on the team takes her seriously. She specifically points out that others are just in it for the money, and it just seems weird to see a group of religiously skeptical paranormal investigators who have actually seen and or interacted with ghosts. I mean, I get that the existence of ghosts doesn't mean the existence of God. But if I've personally filmed a unicorn taking a shit on my front yard, I wouldn't scoff at someone who claims to have seen a leprechaun pissing in their bathroom. But my absolute favorite is when they decide to have another seance and let Felix be possessed by the ghost a second time, long after several people have been found murdered by the ghost. The plan is to make a connection so that during the trance, Felix can try to find out where the ghost's remains are, which would allow our team to destroy him once and for all. Unfortunately, genius Agnes here decides to blab the whole fucking plan to the ghost, who puts a quick stop to the whole thing by doing his Scanner's impression. Great job, Agnes. You could have ended this movie about 20 minutes earlier by shutting the fuck up. All you had to do was literally nothing, and it would have been over. Instead, the movie gets a little more time to add a couple of extra kills. But at this point, I really don't care anymore. And as in all haunted house movies, the question always comes up, why the fuck don't they just leave? Well, in this one, the answer is, the head of security needs the money, and the gate is chained shut. That's it. I mean, the only reason the ghost is able to physically attack people is because he's using Whitney to pass into the real world. So as soon as people start dying, send the bitch over the fucking fence and let her hitchhike home. Because what does happen is they stay long enough for the groundskeeper to lock the gate and sabotage the van, which then delays the team until the ghost becomes powerful enough to create an illusion that tricks Whitney into believing that she left the property when she does finally decide to leave.
Oh my God, it was all just an illusion. Lauder tricked me. I never even left the grounds.
And that's the one thing I can't stand about haunting movies. Too goddamn many of them has that invisible magic movie ghostly meter that has to fill to a certain amount before anyone is in any real danger. The ghost always has to grind out low-level XP side quests until they level up enough to unlock the really dangerous abilities. Usually the ghost starts off only being able to move a door slightly or create steamy mirror messages during a shower. You know, shit like that. But eventually they build up the ability to possess or fuck with major electronics, or straight up murder people. It's always an arbitrary process that makes sure the movie doesn't give us anything really good until the end. And it gets a free pass because ghosts are magic, and can or can't do whatever they want depending on the plot. Anyway, eventually they find the ghost's heart in the basement. The ghost fully passes through Whitney to put an axe through Agnes's head, and Tony traps it in the bullshit ghost machine trap. But only temporarily. Our last two survivors take the heart up to the attic, where Whitney is fully possessed by the ghost. Because we've established so well that it's Felix who can be possessed, not Whitney. She's just the doorway he uses to fuck with others. Fucking whatever, I'm just trying to get to the finish here. Whitney chugs down the ghost's ashes like it's the last fucking mimosa at Sunday brunch, and suddenly she transforms into Avery. Bullets don't work because apparently he's finally finished the ritual to make him immortal. But like everyone else in this movie, he just can't help but run his fucking mouth.
You can't kill me. I'm immortal. I have no heart.
So Tony shoots the box containing the heart, which injures Avery. He chucks the heart-filled box out the window, it smashes to the ground below in a bloody splort, and Avery spontaneously erupts in bluish fire, melting like a hairy ice cream cone in July, and giving us some much-needed practical special effects goodness. But at this point, it's too little, too goddamn late. We get one last jump scare attempt as the skeleton looks up at Tony, but it's just Whitney being released from the possession, safe and sound, but just a little gooier than she started. The two leave the property, and we skip ahead some time to find out Tony has opened his own detective agency and is trying to put the events of the Avery house behind him. The end. Witchtrap is a movie that's all about blown potential. I don't think it's necessarily a bad movie, but it is plagued by issues that keep it from being good. In fact, it felt like a downright chore just to get through it. The biggest issue being the dreadful acting. But there is a valid excuse for that. Apparently there was an issue with the original live recording, leading to the actors having to re-record their lines in post-production, which is why everyone is so terrible. I really wish we could have seen the actual performances, because the dialogue makes it very hard to get through this one. Also, the original gore had to be toned down to avoid an X rating, including footage from the showerhead throat stabbing, Levi's head getting smushed, and a longer shot of Felix's head going kaboom. I went looking for this footage, but I wasn't able to find it while I was writing my review, so it's hard for me to say if this would have been enough to counter the dreadful voice acting, but I doubt it would have been. And honestly, it's really a shame. Witchtrap isn't exactly a bad movie, it's just plagued by issues. Believe me when I say I really wanted to like this one. It had a lot going for it, but also too much going against it. Witchtrap was written and directed by Kevin Tenney, who also starred as Devin Lauder. He also directed Witchboard, Night of the Demons, The Cellar, and Pinocchio's Revenge. So at the very least, I can cut the man some slack for Witchtrap, because he gave me Tawny Katane fully naked in the shower in Witchboard. Well, goddammit, Linnea Quigley ain't the only one who can nude up for a shower scene. And that's all I'm going to say for this tawdry tale, because it's time to close the books on this one for good. So until I greet you again for the next nasty nosh, this is your corporeal clowny compatriot, Sugar Pants. See you in your dreams.
Hey, fool! Don't you know you can go blind doing that?